When I was little, SpongeBob was my favorite cartoon, and it still is to this day. And most people would agree that Renaissance SpongeBob was better than any other form of media at nonsense humor, with Cartoon Network's Chowder being a close second. But there's one form of media in Nickelodeon's catalog, a movie. A movie that came out in 1997, got a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes, and is an hour and a half of dumb fun. Good Burger. Good Burger is, in my opinion, an underrated comedy. Sure, some of the zany bits aren't that funny, but almost all of the out of pocket bits land in a way where you can't help but cackle from the absurdity of it. The plot of the movie is that it's the start of summer vacation and Dexter plans to do nothing. But when he's driving home, Ed has a little too much fun on his rollerblades and skates right in front of Dexter's mom's car. Dexter swerves in an attempt to not hit him, but ends up crashing into the car of his teacher, Mr. Weed. So now he has to get a summer job to pay off the damages to Mr. Weed's car and his mother's car. He tries to get hired at a food joint, but the boss fires him almost immediately. And he goes to Good Burger to drink his sorrows away. And Ed helps him get hired there. And then we're reintroduced to the antagonists of the film, Mondo Burger. And the rest of the film is the two rival restaurants trying to outdo each other for maximum customers. The moments where Ed is just being himself and making everyone else miserable is one of the best parts of the movie. And there's some other fun characters too. Spatch, Monique, Fizz, the one girl who was a vegetarian, some random kid named O'Malley that was fired because he didn't wear his pants to work. Dexter's jokes don't always land, but they have a better chance when Ed is involved. Mr. Bailey has a fun Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob dynamic between Ed, which is always fun to see. And the two other characters that sometimes steal the show in this film have got to be Otis and Kurt. Kurt is the rival business owner of Mondo Burger. Great name, by the way. And every time this man is on screen, you get the best crazy, angry, and hilariously delivered lines of any character in the movie. Peak cartoon villain. Like, there's this one part where he's threatening Ed, and when he says something dumb, he just yells, "That's it! You guys are grass!" Like, what? That was the last thing I expected him to say when I watched it for the first time. Hilarious. And then there's Otis. He's one of those characters that you wish you could have just seen more of, because pretty much all of his lines and interaction with everyone is gold, despite the fact that he's in the background most of the time. But then he just comes to life in the second act. Never change, Otis.
I need a hot jacuzzi.
And I encourage you to watch the rest of the film on your own, because the two climaxes later on are both fun, crazy, and have a couple of fun surprises. And there are so many other aspects of this movie that make it unique from other cheesy 90s films. But I highly recommend that you just watch it for yourself, and brace for a surprisingly good time. There is one part at the end, however, that I do want to talk about. So if you don't want spoilers, then you can just skip to the next point in the VOD. And don't worry, I left markers in the video. It's at the end of the movie. Ed and Dexter just beat Kurt and Mondo Burger. The way they shut them down is Ed stole a chemical they were using called Triampathon to make their burgers bigger. And he accidentally dropped it into the meat supply, and then got the idea to pour more in and make their burgers blow up the building. I told you this movie is out of pocket. But then when they were walking away, Ed went on this spiel, saying how he was actually 20 steps ahead and he was planning to do that the moment he stepped in the kitchen. And for me, all this did was ruin the lovable oaf character they've been setting up for the whole movie. Just to end it with, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not stupid, I just choose to look dumb, but I'm actually a genius." If they had just ended it with him saying that he was trying to steal it and get it to the authorities like they planned, but then accidentally dropped it and got an idea, then that could have been a heartwarming moment where Ed genuinely had a good idea, and Dexter realizes that Ed's not as dumb as he thought. But no, they just say he's secretly a genius and use it for comedic purposes. Pretty lame. But overall, a nice and simple, cheesy classic. Sprinkled with some cartoon bits, surprisingly good dialogue, a fun dance break that you didn't know you needed. And this bit with the flying talking burgers wasn't using CGI, by the way. 7 out of 10. Good stuff. But now that we've talked about a pretty good movie, I think you all know that we now have to talk about a pretty bad movie. Good Burger 2. It came out 2 years ago, And it did the smart thing of just copying a lot of the same jokes from the original, but making them more dragged out and less funny. In this movie, Dexter grows up to be a salesman. His product is a liquid that makes things fireproof. Can you guess what happens when he tries to demonstrate this product on his home? His home starts to burn down. So yeah, his house burns down, he's all sad, and Mark Cuban is there for some reason. And he realizes there's no choice but to go back to work with Ed. Surely the movie gets better from here, right? Wrong. Our protagonists meet up in the most infuriating way.
Yo, hey! Hey, man! Oh, hey, Jackson! Hey, hey, dude! Looking for you! Hey, Dex. Hey, man. You almost car-burgered me to death. No?
So, my main issue with this is, even when they had wackiness similar to this, none of them directly interfered with the limitations of humans. They had eye sound effects and the occasional destruction of property, but they didn't run somebody over and launch them into the sky Home Alone 2 style. They knew that it would be too dumb if they did it with people. People directing this sad excuse for a sequel are not gonna care about what make the jokes funny. No, they're just gonna copy the ideas and it'll be the same, right? 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 Honestly, it would have been a lot funnier if Ed ran him over, and then it just cuts to them in the hospital, and Dexter has to pay his medical bills before they get to the restaurant. That would have been funny, but whatever. And then we spend the next 15 to 20 minutes being introduced to all these dull and boring characters, and Ed's family of clones. His oldest son's name is literally Ed 2. And once we're done with all of that, we realize that people are trying to buy Good Burger from Ed and make it a massive corporation. But Ed doesn't want to because he likes things the way they are. Oh, and by the way, Ed owns Good Burger now, in case you didn't piece that together. But then Dexter decides to get all in his business and convinces him to make the deal. There's also this random scene where Ed gets threatened by goons to sign the deal at a bowling place, but Dexter is introduced to the guy offering the deal. So the only reason for showing the goons was to insert some boring slapstick. Neat! Anyways, they signed the deal, and then at the grand reopening, the shady dealer reveals in front of everyone, "Idiots! You didn't read all of the contract before you signed! You gave us everything without even knowing! You got hustled! So then I think Ed and Dex try to sneak into their building, or they just walk in and, talk to them or something. I don't know. But then they get caught to reveal the evil mastermind behind all of this. And it's Kurt's sister. And apparently she's been planning this entire corporation just to get revenge on them for putting her brother in jail. Ma'am, it's your brother's fault he ended up in jail. Why do you feel the need to hunt down the people involved with his arrest and get revenge? What are you, Flintheart Glomgold? Anyways, now that she has the rights to Good Burger, and Ed, apparently, she decides to make Ed robots all around the world to automate the food industry and not have to hire anyone. It's interesting how you weren't mentioned in the first film, considering you were able to come up with all of this. So she sends them off in an AI car that tries to kill them by crashing, but they make it drive in circles to drain the gas and power. So now they have to bring down the corporation with the most cliche group of characters and perform the most cliche plan they could have come up with. Also, one of these characters is Dexter's daughter, apparently, and they have beef with each other because Dexter abandoned her and his wife or whatever to become a crappy businessman. And they don't even address this in the movie except when she's introduced. They just save the day, and then his wife just appears at the end to tell him how proud she is of him. But all he did was save his daughter from a meat grinder during the climax. He still hasn't done anything to make up for leaving his wife to make fireproof liquid that still catches on fire! Also, speaking of Dexter, I couldn't help but notice how they didn't make Dexter seem like Dexter. I don't know how to describe it, but he just seemed like a robot the whole movie, just going through the motions of the script. I don't know if it has something to do with the original actor being rusty at the part or something, but it was just not the same. So the gang go back to the restaurant. The day is won. Kai Cenat asks for more mustard. Ed 2 drives the paddy wagon into the store, and Ed does his YouTube outro. This movie only made me laugh like 4 times. Most of it was boring joke recycling. And it didn't do anything to differentiate itself from the original. And there was at least one fart joke. Overall, a really bad sequel. Like a 4 out of 10. Also, there's a drastic amount of celebrities in this, if you didn't already notice. Pete Davidson, Mark Cuban, Kai Cenat, Young Gravy, Maya Rudolph, and a whole bunch I probably don't even know. The first one had one celebrity, Shaq, and they make a huge deal out of it. This movie is barely even acknowledging that they're here. Like, what? But that's pretty much all I have to say. I wouldn't recommend Good Burger 2, but if you want to see how bad it is for yourself, then I won't stop you. But I'm gonna go watch Chowder Funny Moments. Bye.